Hi, welcome to Russell Rice Reviews. Tonight we are not reviewing anything, we're not even drinking anything. It's just Whiskey 101. So it's Christmas, and we all know the true meaning of Christmas. And that is, yes, you're correct, greater alcohol consumption. Okay, so this year, if you are wondering, what is whiskey and why are all the cool people drinking it? Well, this video is for you. Let me be your guide as you stand in the liquor section of your favorite supermarket or grocery store. Okay, so what is whiskey? So whiskey, guys, is spirit or liquor distilled from grain. What grain? Well, it could be rye, it could be barley, or corn there. And there are many different kinds of whiskey. There is Irish. Most popular brand would be Jameson. We have Japanese and Taiwanese whiskeys, both pretty good, both pretty expensive. We have, well, there's American whiskey, more commonly known as bourbon, and then there's Scotch. And bourbon and Scotch are what we will focus on in this video, since they are the, well, most popular or best selling there. All right, so who should get bourbon? Well, if you think Jack Daniels is the best thing in the world, then bourbon is your thing. Okay, so good brands to try would be, number one, this. Okay, so this is a bottle of Buffalo Trace. All right, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey there. So if the bottle is labeled Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, well, it means that it is, or it has been aged for at least 2 years there. Although if the well, usually Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys are 4 years old at least. Okay? And if they're, well, younger than 4 years but older than 2 years, then it has to say on the bottle. But I see no age statement here, and well, a lot of people guess that Buffalo Trace is 7 to 8 years old there. So we can assume, at least, that Buffalo Trace is at least 4 years old there. Okay, now another brand you can try for bourbon would be Bullet, Bullet. So Buffalo Trace and Bullet are both in the 2,000 pesos and below price range there. And so yeah, if you like your liquor or your spirit sweet, then bourbon is definitely your thing there. Now on to Scotch. All right, so unlike bourbon, Scotch has an age requirement. Okay, so again, yeah, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey has an age requirement, but if you just say bourbon, there's really no age requirement. But for Scotch, okay, there is an age requirement, and Scotch has to be aged for at least 3 years before you can, well, call it Scotch there. Okay, so if you like the fruitiness and the smokiness from Johnny Walker Black Label, then you might be a Scotch guy or gal there. So if it is the, well, fruitiness that you like about Johnny Walker Black Label, then brands that you should try are Glenmorangie or Glenlivet. Okay, so those two are delicate and smooth, and yeah, you will not be disappointed. However, if it's the pungent smokiness that you like from Johnny Walker Black Label, then you should try Isla scotches like this one, Lagavulin or Ardbeg. Right, so these are powerful, challenging scotches, and they will not disappoint either. Okay? However, okay, before you go to single malt scotches, well, I recommend that you try blended scotches first. Right? So what's the difference between the two? Okay, so when you say single malt scotch, right? So the word single there refers to the number of distilleries involved in the making of the scotch. Okay, so if you say single malt, then the scotch or the whiskey came from one distillery. Okay, and the term malt refers to the fact that the grain component is barley only. Okay, there. Okay, so why go for blends first? Well, it's just that blends are more friendly, you know, they're easier to drink initially, and you should go for single malt scotches once you have developed a taste for it, like you know what you want. Like do you want the fruity flavor profile or the smoky flavor profile? Then that's when you should go for single malts. But for beginners, I really recommend blended scotches first, and Johnny Walker Black Label is one of the best blended scotch whiskeys you can get. All right, so another example of blended scotch is this. So this is the Johnny Walker White Walker there. So it says on the label there, you know, blended Scotch whiskey. So blended Scotch means, so blended, so it's a combination of several whiskeys here, so both single malt and grain whiskeys there. And again, you know, it comes from the whiskeys come from different distilleries there. So blended scotches are more friendly, they're more tame there. So what Johnny Walker tries to do is to give you a taste of, well, the scotches from different regions of Scotland, you know. So there's some smoke in there, there's some fruitiness in there, but of course Johnny Walker is like the jack of all trades. All right, so they have, well, a little of everything, but of course single malt whiskeys are going to outdo them, of course. Right? So for example, what I recommended earlier, Glenmorangie, they have this really nice nose, you know, to their whiskey. You know, the fruitiness there is, well, can't be beat. You know, I mean, Johnny Walker has some fruitiness, but it's not as good as what you can get from Glenmorangie. But also Johnny Walker has some smoke, but it's not going to outdo Ardbeg when it comes to smokiness. You get what I'm saying? So Johnny Walker has a little bit of everything, and it does things pretty okay, but it loses to single malt scotches, really. Okay, but again, a good place to start there, blended scotches. Okay, so one more thing. If you will check out a bottle of White Walker, because this is everywhere, you will see that it has no age statement. So this is an example of an NAS bottle. NAS, no age statement. Unlike this bottle, Ardbeg, so this is 10 years old. The Lagavulin is 16 years old. And I have another bottle here. This, the Johnny Walker Green Label, is 15 years old. Right? So, some people would ask, is older whiskey better? Well, answer to that is no, or at least not necessarily. Older whiskey is more expensive because, well, not because it's better, but because it's older, it spends more time in the warehouse, right? So storage costs money, right? So yeah, that's primarily where the cost comes from. Not, you know, necessarily because it's a better product or anything, but there. So if you store it for a longer time, naturally the storage cost is going to be bigger there. Okay, so older does not mean better. Okay, now for no age statement whiskeys, so we can't assume anything. We can't say, you know what, that whiskey I'm sure has 15-year-old whiskey in it. yeah, we can only guess, but the only assumption we can make is that it is at least 3 years old, because again, for it to be called Scotch, it has to be 3 years old at least. All right, so with Scotch, guys, there's just so much variety, okay? And that's one of the things I like about it. I think that's one thing you don't get from bourbon, you know. But of course, that could just be me because I haven't tried the more expensive bourbon brands. But for Scotch, there's just so much to explore. But if I were you, if you're just starting, then I suggest going for blends before going for single malts. There. Okay. Now, speaking of blends, all right. So I showed you this earlier, right? So if you have tried Black Label and you liked it, well, then I recommend this. So this is again another example of a blend, but it's a little bit different though. So the White Walker earlier is called blended Scotch whiskey, right? So different distilleries, different grains. Now Ardbeg is an example of a single malt. So when you say single malt, single distillery and barley only. Now the Green Label is called a blended malt Scotch whiskey. So what does that mean? So it's a blend, sure. So the whiskeys came from different distilleries, but it's a blend of only single malt whiskeys. And I think that makes the Green Label special, because in the Johnnie Walker product line, core product line at least, it's the only one that is a blended malt. Okay, so Johnnie Walker whiskeys are blended Scotch whiskeys. All right, so this is the only blended malt, and it's also the only one. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but somewhere there it's written that it's bottled at 43%. So products in the Johnnie Walker line are bottled at 40%, at least for the core lineup, right? And the Green Label is the only one bottled at 43%. And believe me, you will appreciate the extra 3% there if you drink it. Okay, so if you feel that you've graduated, you're beyond Johnnie Walker Black Label, then I recommend you go for this, at least before going to single malts, because here you will develop your taste further. You will get a better sense of what you really want in your whiskey there. So all right, now I know that you probably believe that it's not about what you drink, but it's more about who you drink it with. Yeah, I agree with that. But at this time, when we're not really allowed to drink with other people, at least physically, right? So yeah, it's a nice time to expand your horizon. Try the best that America or Scotland has to offer there. Okay, so yeah, drink less and drink better is what I'm saying. Your liver will thank you for it. And yeah, I don't know how to end these things, so bye guys.